Hey, do you ever wonder how much does a custom logo design cost? I get this question asked a lot by either fellow logo designers or clients looking for a custom logo. So in this video, I will explain how much a custom logo can actually cost you and why is that one logo can be drastically more expensive than the other. So I will present you with the factors that can determine the cost of your logo, and then I will give you a simple cost breakdown before you hire for your project if you are a business owner, so that you can weigh in the pros and cons of each option to make the right decision for you. And I will also give you an idea of where do you stand in the market if you are a graphic designer, so that you can learn how to price your logo design services like a pro. Now, if you are new to this channel and you want actionable tips on branding, strategy and design, well then smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well. My name is Arek Dworniczak, and at eBay Design, my mission is to help people design iconic brands. So how much does it cost to design a logo? Well, logo design is a creative service, so that the price will very much depend on who designs your logo, right? So it can cost you close to nothing if you decide to hire a young designer on Fiverr for as low as $5. Or it can cost you hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars if you choose to work with a top design agency like Pentagon, for example. So it all depends on who do you choose to work with, a freelancer or an agency, and how experienced they are and where they are located, and do they charge per hour or per project, and of course, what's the scope of the project itself? What are the deliverables? Because you see, it's really about just the logo itself. You will most likely need the whole brand identity, even if you're a small business or a startup. So you see, there are many factors that can determine the price of your logo. Logo design price factors. So first, let's talk about these factors that can determine the price of a logo in general. So as I already mentioned, it all depends on the designer and their experience, and the same applies to design agencies as well, right? An experienced designer with a great portfolio and a specific style or industry experience will have a much higher rate than a fresh out of school graphic design graduate. And apart from that, you need to consider their expertise. So what's the depth of the research and the extent to which they're gonna go in the process? And that will affect the price greatly as well. But strategy is the fundamental step in every logo design process. And then we have a location, because if you hire a designer that is based in a country where the cost of living is very low, like India for example, then the quote will be incomparable to those you receive from designers living in the US for example. And then we have job type. So you see, many designers as well as design agencies will charge per hour, but some will charge a flat rate. And they will usually prepare you a custom quote once the scope of work is properly defined. And then you should also know how many concepts do you want to be presented with. And most professionals will present you with 3 strong logo concepts and perhaps a round of visions included. And finally, a very important factor as well is the deliverables, because it's really about just the logo itself. You will most likely need this logo in different logo lookups, different color versions, so that you might actually need the whole brand identity system that comes with a style guide and so on. So that understanding these factors will help you weigh in the cost against the quality and the value you will get. And this brings us closer to talking about the value of getting a quality logo and a brand identity. So why is logo design so valuable? So you see, a logo is one of the most valuable assets that any brand can have, besides its name of course, and is certainly the most visible one. But even though, as you already know, it's really about just the logo itself, it's usually about the whole identity system and the strategy behind it. So if you start a new business, you naturally want to do everything you can to give your brand a strong presence. So you need a unique, memorable logo that people can remember and can associate a meaning to, so that they will be able to navigate through your competition and identify your brand. And with a good logo and branding, you can really increase your chances of being successful in the marketplace. Now, if you're looking for a rebrand, meaning you already have a logo, but you need to change it, then the value of a new logo is even greater, because you already know that you need something something better, something that can help you communicate better, grow your business faster, and convert more. So you see, logo design is not like 5-minute job. And yes, best logos are usually simple in form and they might look like something easy to do, but believe me, they are not. Logo design is an iterative process and we designers often brainstorm and sketch a ton of ideas and then we execute a few and tweak them and refine them until we arrive on that final design. So there is a lot of thinking and designing and testing and failing and designing again. So the process can take weeks or even months if you want a quality original logo for your brand. So you see, the challenge is to design something so simple yet distinctive and appropriate for your brand so that it can work for you for years and even decades. Because a good logo should be timeless. So you basically get only one chance to get your logo right before you start putting money into your marketing. And this is especially true if you are an established business already. It's very costly to change your logo and rebrand later on. This is because your logo is literally everywhere. It's on your business cards, your marketing materials, your website, t-shirts, all the promotional items, you name it. Your logo is the centerpiece of all brand communication. It is the most visible element of your brand. And besides your brand name, it is the most valuable asset of your branding. Now, logo design cost breakdown. So since you already know what determines the price of a logo and why getting your logo right is extremely important, now let me give you a simple breakdown of the options that you have out there to get your logo done. So basically, we can group logo design services into 3 buckets: low cost, mid-range, and high-end. So starting with low cost or budget option. So this is where you can use some online logo makers where you can just input your name and get some generic designs, but you shouldn't do that because what's the point of getting some mess up low quality graphics? It will only hurt your brand. Or another option would be to use some DIY tools to execute your original idea, because I know business owners tend to be very creative, but the problem is that they lack the skills to execute their ideas. So they don't know how to execute their idea in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. So that's why you might be thinking hiring a budget designer on Fiverr makes sense. But this is yet another bad option for you. Think about it. $5 is not a lot considering how much effort a designer needs to put into creating something truly custom and original. If you hire a designer on Fiverr, then expect some either amateur or generic designs or even some stolen graphics. Not good for your brand. And besides, would you be comfortable knowing how important your logo is, yet paying only $5 for it? So another option would be running a contest on sites like 99 Designs, for example. And you've probably heard of that too, but I wouldn't recommend that either. While it might sound good to you as a client getting many ideas from different designers for just a few $100. However, know that no serious designer will truly invest their time participating in some contest knowing that they have a really small chance to win and will most likely walk away with nothing. So expect mediocre 99 designs, but ain't one of them good. So second, we have mid-range logo design. So now let's talk about mid-range option. And here we have all independent designers and small design studios, right? So obviously design students and beginners will charge you somewhere around $1,000 for a logo. Now, those more experienced designers who specialize in branding and logo design, just like myself, will quote you at around $10,000 and up. So if they are experienced, then they have a good portfolio and this is what they do for a living. So you will pay them and they will work with you directly and they will be fully dedicated to your project. So this is probably the best way for most clients to get a quality logo and identity system within a reasonable budget, of course. And then depending on different factors, small design agencies can charge you anywhere from $10,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And again, it depends on the agency's reputation, their location, their experience, your scope of work, and so on. But know that hiring a small design agency is not necessarily better than hiring a solo specialist, because senior designers can usually work directly with you, execute faster, and probably deliver more creative work in general. So finally, we've got high-end option, which goes well beyond logo design. So here you should consider top award-winning agencies like Pentagram, for example. So for a price tag usually starting at $100,000 and up, you will get the full brand identity system that often comes with brand strategy and more. So top-notch agencies often conduct market research, competitor analysis to figure out how your brand can stand out in a good way. And they will employ creative teams that will approach your project from different angles, ensuring that the work meets absolutely top standards. So this is usually a good option for those demanding clients who need a comprehensive branding service and don't really mind the price. Now, how to plan your budget? So since you've got some idea on what it takes to design a logo and how much it can cost, now let's talk about planning your budget, because actually the best way to go about your project is to define the scope of work and your expectations properly, and then set aside some budget to see what different vendors can do within that budget. Because when it comes to your brand, I'm sure you don't want to spend too much paying for just a logo, right? But let me stop you here, because thinking about your logo as a cost is wrong in the first place. You need to change your mindset and think about it as an investment, not a cost. It is an investment that you make in creating something that is extremely important for the success of your business. So think about it. Is getting the lowest, best price most important, or is getting the best quality result more important? So naturally, you want to get the best logo you can for the money they spent. So the trick is to define the scope of work properly and think through all the deliverables. So is it just the logo or full brand identity? Do you need a design of business cards, stationery, a homepage? Would you also benefit from brand strategy as well? How about creating a style guide? So if you don't have a clear idea of the scope of work, then I recommend you go on websites like Behance or Dribbble, for example, and then find the branding work that you like, and based on that, create a list of your expectations. And that brings us to talking about paying for your logo a flat rate versus an hourly rate. So you see, projects can be unexpected, and clients often ask around for a simple logo design, and then they suddenly realize that they need more than that. So the scope of work changes, and this can cause frustration on both sides. So the designer is charging per hour and for every revision, and it doesn't matter how fast they work or how fast they want to work, versus agreeing on a certain scope of work before you even start the project and getting a flat rate for clearly defined deliverables. This sounds much better, right? That way clients can estimate the total investment. So as a business owner, you might have a certain budget set aside for this project, and it also sounds good to creatives as they know they're gonna get paid for the results. So now it's up to them how fast they deliver on what they promised, right? So there is more transparency here on both sides when it comes to charging a flat rate versus hourly rate. Now, if you pay per hour, at least have some agreement with the designer as to the scope of work that needs to be done within specific timeline. Because if you pay per hour, then you want to know how long this project is going to take, more or less. So that way you can estimate the total investment. For example, if the designer charges $100 per hour and says that based on your requirements, the project can take about 2 weeks, which is roughly 100 hours, then the total cost would be around $10,000. So naturally, if your budget is only $5,000, you don't want to start the project just to have it paused somewhere in the middle or got stuck in endless revisions that can end up costing you a fortune. So that's why I charge per project, as many professional designers do, as it gives me and my client clarity from the get-go. So now let's talk about who to hire for your logo design. So whether you're a startup or an existing company that needs a quality logo, then I believe that hiring an expert freelance logo designer is probably the best option for you. Why? Because you're getting a high quality logo for a fraction of the agency price. So an experienced designer who specializes in logo and brand identity work, just like myself, can provide you with quality designs, but for much less than an established agency would charge you. Especially if the designer used to work at a reputable agency before. That's a pretty good deal, right? They would be handling your project if they still work there, and they would be the one who's actually doing the work without having to pay for the agency overhead, the office, the employees, and so on. So therefore, hiring a freelance designer, an expert in the field of branding, is probably the best quality to price option for most. So you need to consider the factors mentioned before, like the freelancer's experience, their expertise, their location, and so on. And as well as some factors concerning the job itself, like your expectations to the amount of logo concepts and revisions, and the deliverables, of course. So it's not only that you're getting good agency quality for much lower price, but a solo freelancer can actually be more creative, dedicated, and flexible about your project. So finally, let's talk about why logo design ain't cheap. So there are many different brands and therefore many different logos out there. So it is increasingly more difficult to design something simple yet unique and memorable at the same time. So whoever is going to work on your custom logo, they need to interview you first. They're gonna run discovery workshop and develop a strategy prior to design. So those designers will need to learn about your business, research your competition, devise a problem, find a solution, and it all takes a bit of time. So designers go through many steps in their process before they arrive on that final logo. And then they go through the production phase to create the deliverables for you. Because many business owners don't actually realize that they need more than just a logo anyways, right? You will often need that logo in multiple logo lookups, different color versions, and you need this logo to be saved to multiple color spaces like RGB, CMYK, perhaps Pantone, and so on. And many different file formats need to be generated like AI, PDF, JPEG, PNG, SVG, and so on, both vector and raster files. And you might also need a style guide that specifies on your fonts and color scheme and perhaps other supporting visuals like illustrations, icons, and so on, so that your brand will look consistent and the logo it will be applied properly across many different applications. So is it just the logo or the whole brand identity? Do you need a style guide? You see what I'm saying? So it's really important to understand the process and what you are getting or you are not getting for the money you spend. So as an interesting bonus, I have prepared for you the cost of famous logos. And here you might be surprised by how much these logos actually cost. However, look at it more as an interesting fact rather than a reference by any means. So do you know that the Nike swoosh is perhaps one of the most well-known cheap logos? I mean, back in 1971, Caroline Davidson was commissioned to design the famous now logo for only $35. She was a graphic design student at that time. So they asked Caroline to design a logo for shoes that had something to do with movement, and that was the whole brief. So she presented 5 different designs, and one of which was the swoosh, which resembles a wing and hits at Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. And the best of all is that the Nike founder, Phil Knight, didn't really like it either. He said, "I don't love it, but I think it will grow on me." However, a few years later, after huge success, Knight gave Caroline a diamond ring with the swoosh engraved on it. So he also gave her shares in Nike stock that were worth back then $1 million. And another interesting story about famous logo and their cost is the BP rebrand. So in 2001, the old giant BP commissioned creative agency Landor Associates and advertising agency Ogilvy & Mather and their PR to replace the green shield logo with the current Helios symbol and create a surrounding identity and a campaign. So the whole rebrand cost BP a whopping $4.6 million, and the launch of that rebrand cost over $211 million. When it comes to the rebrand of an established company, then the final price is usually a fraction of the total launch cost. So as you can see, the execution of a logo concept itself can cost you close to nothing. What you pay for really is the strategy, the discovery, the creative thinking that precedes the design of a logo. So it's all the toil and hard work of a designer or a team of designers that gather together to solve a big problem for your business. business. Conclusions. So logo design is not an easy 5-minute job like most people think. Yes, it does look simple, but it's not easy to get to that simple logo because it often requires a lot of time and effort and many iterations to design a truly powerful logo. And therefore a good logo definitely doesn't cost $5 either. So when it comes to logo design, you really get what you pay for. But honestly, I think that the best cost to value ratio for most startups and small to medium-sized businesses would be to hire either a senior freelance designer or a small design agency. So this can cost you anywhere from just a few thousand to a few dozen of thousands of dollars. But remember, while it might seem expensive now, consider this rather as an investment in building a strong brand. Something that will enable you to grow your business faster with good quality design. So both an experienced designer and a reputable small design agency will have the skills to get you a quality logo, but without breaking the bank. Now, if you are looking for a custom logo, then you already know where to find me. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well to let you know when we've got new videos coming out. Until next time, this was Arek Dvorniczak from eBay Design, and I will see you in the next video.